Rob, thank you very much for those very, very kind remarks. You heard from Dr. Wilson the great benefit of being in the right place at the right time. I feel like I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time because I've got to speak after Ruth, after Dr. Sinelli, obviously after Dr. Wilson, after my good friend Dan Rose, and in absentia, my good friend Skip Gates, and obviously most recently Rob Leary. So I am deeply humbled to be here at this time. You heard from Ruth something that was really important, which is there is sort of an inner HEAF in all of us. And the great joy about HEAF is that brings it out for a number of students who may not otherwise have that possibility. And so just to give you a minute of my own story, I also had my own HEAFs, and they were, as with Ruth, my parents. My father was a child of the Depression, and what the Depression did for him was got him very, very interested in how banks work. And so while many fathers are probably talking to their sons about the statistics on the football team or the baseball team, et cetera, my father was talking to me about those exciting dynamic things known as CD interest rates. And my mother, similar I think to Ruth's mother, was very, very interested in education. She was a trained educator at what was then called Miners Teachers College for Women in Washington, D.C. And while we grew up in what is called a moderate low-income neighborhood, and for those who want to know what that meant is both my parents had a job, but we lived behind a housing project. And so we were well aware that we were not rich in any sense, but there are those who were even poorer than we were. And so while HEAF allows its students to go around the world and visit places in Africa or in Scandinavia, what my parents did for me to give me some sense of cultural relevance and to expand my mind was to drive up and down Massachusetts Avenue in Washington, D.C. And what they asked me to do as we drove on Sundays up and down Mass Avenue was my job, little Roger Ferguson Jr. with an afro out to here and thick glasses, my job was to identify every flag of every embassy on Embassy Row. And then we alternated it on Sundays. When we didn't do Mass Avenue, we did Constitution Avenue and Independence Avenue, and my job was to sit in the back of the car and call out the name of every government building. And so if you want to come with me to Washington someday, you'll learn the FTC versus the IRS versus the Treasury Department, et cetera. And so the reason I'm just so incredibly honored about all of this is I know how important it is to have a HEAF in your life. That HEAF may be your parents, it may be a brother, it may be an aunt, it may be an uncle, or it may, in New York, actually be HEAF. And so this is really very, very important to me, to recognize the power of education, the transformative power of education in the lives of, unfortunately not yet millions of Americans, but dozens and hundreds of Americans here in New York City. The final point I'd make is that what we honor here tonight really clearly has roots here in New York, but I hope over time it resonates beyond that. If I could put my hat as a macroeconomist, which is a pretty boring hat to put on at 9:15, I know, but one of the things that we all have to recognize is that we are struggling through a remarkable, once I think in a century transformation. There was a transformation from the agrarian economy to the industrial economy, and now we're going from a transformation of the industrial economy to the post-industrial economy. And the only thing that's going to carry us through and allow us to succeed is the one thing that HEAF stands for, which is an honest education opportunity for every child. And so with that, let me close, let me thank you, and let me wish you a good evening. Thank you very, very much for this honor. Thank you.